You know what breaks my heart every single June? Walking outside with my morning coffee, looking at my beautiful tomato plants covered in bright yellow flowers, and then seeing dozens of them scattered on the ground like confetti after a party nobody wanted. Last summer, I actually counted 37 flowers dropped off one single plant in just 7 days. 37 potential tomatoes gone. And here is the thing. If you grow tomatoes at home, and about 86% of American food gardeners do, chances are you have lived through this exact nightmare. You probably blamed the heat or figured you just had bad luck. But those falling flowers are not random. Your tomato plant is actually sending you a desperate signal, begging for exactly 2 specific nutrients that almost nobody thinks to give it in June. And there is one simple 30-second morning trick that 9 out of 10 gardeners have never even heard of that can save almost every single blossom on your plant. Today I'm going to walk you through the exact 4-week June rescue plan, backed by real agricultural research that turns those fragile yellow flowers into heavy, juicy red tomatoes. If you are serious about your summer garden, go ahead and subscribe right now, because next month I am dropping the complete July schedule that picks up right where this one ends. But first, let me explain why June is the one month that decides your entire tomato harvest. Here is something most people do not realize. June is not just another month on the calendar for your tomato plant. It is the single most important turning point of the entire growing season. Back in May, your plant had one simple job: grow leaves, build a strong frame, and get as tall and green as possible. But the moment June arrives, everything changes. Your plant receives an internal signal telling it to stop building and start reproducing. It needs to shift all of its energy away from those lush green leaves and pour it directly into those delicate yellow flowers. If your plant does not get the right fuel for this transition, it panics and goes into survival mode. It forms a tiny, weak layer at the base of the flower stem and simply disconnects it. The flower falls, and that potential tomato is gone forever. Think of it like a fuse in an electrical panel. When the system senses an overload, it blows the fuse to protect the whole house. Your plant is doing the exact same thing. But here is what makes June even more dangerous. Research from the University of California Integrated Pest Management Program shows that tomatoes pollinate best between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. When the thermometer climbs above 90 during the day, or when nighttime temperatures stay above 75, the pollen inside those flowers becomes sticky and clumps together. Pollination fails completely, and the flower drops. So if you are gardening anywhere that gets hot in June, your flowers are fighting an invisible battle every single day. But do not worry. We can absolutely win this fight. The first step is avoiding the biggest mistake I see gardeners make every June. I call it the nitrogen trap. Nitrogen is an incredible nutrient, and the engine behind all that beautiful green growth your plant put out in May. But when June arrives and your plant is trying to switch into fruit mode, many gardeners keep pouring on the same high nitrogen fertilizer from spring. This completely confuses the plant. Part of its biology says make flowers, but the flood of nitrogen screams keep making leaves. So the plant takes the easy path. It pumps out massive dark green leaves and forgets about the flowers entirely. It is like giving a student extra homework the night before their final exam. More preparation is not what they need. They need to perform right now. And when those leaves grow too thick, they create a heavy canopy that blocks sunlight and traps humidity around the flowers below, making pollination nearly impossible. I once visited a neighbor named Mike down in Georgia whose tomato plant stood over 7 feet tall, beautifully green, but it did not produce a single tomato. That is the nitrogen trap. A 2018 greenhouse study found that shifting to higher phosphorus while keeping nitrogen low, around a ratio of 5-10-10, significantly improved flower production and reduced blossom drop. That is the exact diet your June tomato plant is starving for. But even with perfect fertilizer balance, your flowers might still drop if you are missing 2 secret ingredients. The 2 nutrients your plant desperately needs right now are calcium and boron. A longtime gardener named Bill, who lives down the road from me in South Carolina, once told me something I will never forget. He said, "Son, your flowers do not need more food. They need glue." And he was absolutely right. Calcium is the biological cement that builds and strengthens the cell walls inside that tiny green stem, connecting each flower to the main branch. When calcium levels are strong, that stem becomes thick and tough, almost like a little wooden branch, and the flower locks in so tight that no amount of wind or heat can knock it loose. But when calcium runs low, that same stem stays paper-thin and fragile. The slightest stress and it snaps right off. Now here is the frustrating part. Your garden soil probably already has plenty of calcium sitting in it. But during the intense June heat, the roots struggle to pull it up fast enough. The plant is demanding so much calcium for all those new flowers that the supply chain simply cannot keep up. Research found that supplementing calcium at just 0.6% through foliar application significantly reduced flower drop and boosted overall yield. But here is the twist that most people miss. Calcium alone is not enough. It needs a partner to actually reach the flowers. That partner is boron. Without boron, the calcium gets absorbed by the roots, but then just sits there, stuck in the lower leaves, never traveling up to where the blossoms need it most. Think of boron as the dedicated delivery system inside the plant. It grabs onto the calcium and carries it all the way up through the main stem, through the branches, and directly into those fragile flower joints. And the results speak for themselves. Researchers found that adding just 0.25% boron increased the number of fruits per plant by a full 45%. That is not a minor bump. That is nearly half again as many tomatoes from the exact same plant. And here's the best part. You do not need to spend $1. Crush your morning eggshells into a fine powder, soak them in apple cider vinegar until the bubbling stops, then mix 1 part solution with 10 parts water and pour it at the base of your plant. For boron, use organic liquid kelp extract, or dissolve 1/8 of a teaspoon of natural borax powder into 1 gallon of water. Remember, with boron, less is more. Too much will burn your plant. Now here is the part that almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most important secret in this entire video. You can nail every nutrient perfectly, but if pollination does not physically happen inside those flowers, you still get 0 tomatoes. And here is a fact that really caught me off guard. Honeybees do very little for tomato flowers. Research from the University of California Master Gardener program found that honeybees do not vibrate their wings when they land on tomato blossoms, so they barely move the pollen. The real heroes are bumblebees, but their populations are declining, and during the hottest weeks of June, they stay hidden. So your flowers sit there full of pollen, waiting for a vibration that never comes. This is where the 30-second morning trick comes in. Every morning, around 10 o'clock, walk out to your plants and gently shake the main stem or the supporting stake. That vibration mimics a bumblebee and knocks the pollen loose. For even better results, press the back of an old electric toothbrush against each flower cluster for a few seconds. I started doing this last June, and it saved roughly 80% of my remaining blossoms. Do not throw away that old toothbrush. It just became your most powerful garden tool. Now let me put it all together into a simple week-by-week plan you can start today. Week 1 is the reset. Put away every high nitrogen fertilizer you own and spread a generous layer of organic bone meal around the base of each plant. Bone meal delivers slow-release phosphorus that tells the roots loud and clear it is time to fuel flowers instead of leaves. By the end of this first week, you should notice that the explosive leaf growth starts to calm down. Week 2 is the boost. This is when we bring in the secret weapons. Apply your eggshell calcium solution and kelp boron blend directly to the soil at the base, and begin your daily hand pollination every morning around 10 o'clock. Make it part of your coffee routine. Walk outside, take a sip, buzz your flowers with that toothbrush, and walk back inside. It takes less than a minute, and it changes everything. Week 3 is all about patience, and I know this is the hardest part for most of us. Do not add any new fertilizer at all. Your only job is keeping the soil consistently moist with deep watering 2 to 3 times per week and continuing your morning pollination. Look closely at the flowers. You will start seeing yellow petals curl back naturally, and right there in the center, a tiny firm green ball will appear. That is your baby tomato, and if the stem holding it looks thick and strong, your calcium and boron did their job perfectly. Week 4 is the reward. If extreme heat above 95 degrees Fahrenheit is stressing your plants, give them a gentle drink of compost tea at sunset. This is not heavy fertilizer, but a boost of beneficial microbes that help roots absorb what is already in the soil. Start adding extra stakes or cages now, because your branches are about to get seriously heavy with fruit. But none of this works without the final piece. That final piece is water. All that calcium and boron you applied cannot travel through dry dirt. Nutrients need moisture to dissolve, and roots need moisture to absorb them. Water deeply at the base 2 to 3 times every week, soaking down at least 6 to 8 inches. Never water the leaves from above. Wet leaves in June humidity invite fungal disease. After watering, spread a thick 3-inch layer of straw or dried leaves over the soil. This mulch blanket keeps the ground cool, locks in moisture, and creates the perfect environment for beneficial microbes to thrive right where your roots need them. So let me bring it all together. 4 rules for saving your June harvest. Rule 1. Cut the nitrogen and switch to bone meal for phosphorus. Rule 2. Apply your free homemade calcium and boron blend. Rule 3. Hand pollinate every morning for 30 seconds. Rule 4. Water deeply at the base and protect the soil with thick mulch. 4 rules. $0. And a harvest that will have your neighbors knocking on your door. Drop a comment and tell me your biggest tomato struggle this June. I read every single one. If this helped, share it with a gardening friend before their flowers are gone. Hit subscribe and the bell because next month I am releasing the July schedule that picks up right where this ends. Keep growing, keep learning, and I will see you in the garden. Happy gardening, my friends.